You've been waiting, haven't you? For the message that never came, for the apology that never arrived, for the moment that would finally make it all make sense. You tell yourself it's not about revenge, not even about anger. It's about understanding. You just want to know why. Why they said what they said. Why they left when you needed them most. Why they could look you in the eyes, promise you forever, and then vanish like you were nothing. You rehearse what you'd say if they called. You imagine their words, the tone, the regret in their voice. You think about the day they'll realize what they lost, the day they'll finally see you. But the day never comes. And each time the phone stays silent, each time the memory resurfaces, you feel it, the ache, the tightening in your chest, the quiet whisper that says, maybe it's your fault. So you go back through every detail, every argument, every moment they pulled away, as if the past is a puzzle you can solve if you just look harder, as if closure hides somewhere between their words and their silence. But here's the brutal truth. You're not waiting for them. You're waiting for yourself, for the part of you that still believes you need their words to set you free. You're waiting for them to admit they hurt you, because maybe then you'll finally believe it was real. You're waiting for them to apologize, because maybe then the pain will have a purpose. You're waiting for them to give you peace, because somewhere deep down, you've forgotten that peace was never theirs to give. That's the trap, isn't it? Believing that the ones who broke you also hold the power to fix you. Believing that freedom comes from their validation, their explanation, their apology. But what if it doesn't? What if the only thing keeping you from healing is the story that says you can't move on until they say the right words? What if the real prison isn't their silence, but you're waiting? Because while you're standing still, hoping for them to look back, life is still moving. The world is still turning. And the version of you that once begged for closure is begging now to be released. Not from them, but from the weight itself. You've been holding your breath for too long, trying to inhale a peace that never comes. It's time to exhale. It's time to stop waiting for the apology that will never come, and start walking toward the freedom that's been waiting for you. We grow up believing in this myth called closure, that if we just had one last conversation, one honest moment, one sincere apology, the pain would finally make sense. We're taught that healing needs a conclusion, that every story ends with words neatly tied in a bow. But real life doesn't give you that. People disappear mid-sentence. They ghost, they lie, they rewrite the story in their heads until you become the villain just to make them feel better about leaving. And still you wait, thinking if they could just admit what they did, the weight would finally lift off your chest. But closure is not a door they hold the key to. It's a door you've been guarding, hoping they'll knock. But they won't, because the people who hurt you are often too weak to face what they've done. They'll run from it. They'll pretend you're fine. They'll convince themselves you overreacted because that's easier than owning the damage they caused. And here's what stings. They don't need closure. You do. Because you're the one who feels everything deeply. You're the one who gave a damn. You're the one left holding the silence like it's proof that something real existed. But their silence doesn't mean you were never enough. It means they never had the courage to face the truth. You've been searching for peace in their words, when the truth is, their words were what broke your peace in the first place. You keep waiting for them to say something that undoes the damage, but the damage wasn't made with words. It was made with choices, with actions, with cowardice. So stop romanticizing the idea of closure. Stop imagining that one perfect conversation where everything clicks and the pain dissolves. It doesn't exist. Even if they came back tomorrow and told you everything you've been dying to hear, it wouldn't heal you. Because closure doesn't come from knowing why they hurt you. It comes from knowing you survived it. You heal when you accept the apology you'll never get. You move on when you stop chasing understanding from someone who couldn't even understand you when you were right in front of them. The truth is simple, and it's sharp. They can't give you closure because they're the reason you need it. And the longer you wait for them to make things right, the longer you delay the moment you realize you've always had the power to walk away. So don't wait for their words. Don't wait for their guilt, their clarity, their moment of truth. You don't heal by hearing them say they're sorry. You heal when you stop needing them to. Because closure is not something you receive, it's something you decide. It's the moment you whisper to yourself, "I'm done explaining my pain to those who caused it." It's when you stop reopening old wounds just to prove that they bled. It's when you finally understand. You were never waiting for closure. You were waiting for permission to let go, and you don't need it anymore. You keep saying it. Maybe one day. Maybe one day they'll understand what they did. Maybe one day they'll wake up and feel the weight of your silence. Maybe one day they'll reach out and everything you've been holding in your chest will finally be released. That word, someday. It sounds gentle, almost hopeful. But really, it's a trap dressed like comfort. It keeps you tied to the past with a rope called hope. Because as long as you believe in someday, you don't have to let go today. You don't have to face the finality of what happened. You don't have to grieve what's gone. You can stay suspended, half in the memory, half in the fantasy, convincing yourself that one day it will all come full circle, but it won't. And deep down, you know it. The people who broke you are not sitting in some quiet room reflecting on how they hurt you. They're living their lives. They're laughing. They're sleeping peacefully. While you're carrying the weight of a story that already ended. Someday is how the mind protects itself. It gives the pain a future so it doesn't have to face the emptiness of now. It's easier to believe that healing is coming than to admit that the apology never will. You tell yourself it's patience, that you're giving life time to balance things out. But patience is waiting for something real. And this is waiting for a ghost to remember your name. Every time you say, maybe one day, you give away a piece of your power. You delay your peace. You hand control of your healing to someone who already walked away. And while you're waiting for them to grow, to change, to see, you're standing still, watching years pass by through the glass of a closed door. But what if there is no someday? What if this is it, the moment you decide it's enough? What if the closure you've been waiting for isn't in their hands, but in your choice to stop waiting altogether? Because the truth is, healing doesn't need their cooperation. It only needs your decision. You don't need their apology to move on. You just need to stop believing that you can't move without it. So stop telling yourself one day they'll understand. Stop imagining that moment where they finally realize your worth. Because when that day never comes, you'll realize you've spent too much of your life standing in a story that's already over. Say it out loud, not someday, today. Today you stop waiting. Today you reclaim your peace. Today you let the fantasy die so the truth can set you free. Because the moment you stop hoping for them to fix it, you start building the version of yourself that no longer needs them to. And that version, the one who stopped waiting, is the one who finally walks away without looking back. Do you want the truth? They've already moved on. They're not replaying the conversations in their head like you are. They're not losing sleep over the way they made you feel. They're not haunted by the look in your eyes when they walked away. You are. Because you cared. Because when you love, you mean it. When you give all of you. And now that same heart, the one that gave everything, is the same one paying the price. But here's the part no one tells you. Sometimes the people who break you sleep just fine. They don't lose an ounce of peace because to them it was just another moment, another choice, another day. While for you, it was everything. And that's where the shift has to happen. Right here, right now. Because you can't keep bleeding for people who never once stopped to see if you were still alive. You can't keep trying to make sense of a person who built their peace on the ruins of yours. You can't keep calling it love when what they gave you was confusion dressed as care, silence disguised as peace, and manipulation pretending to be honesty. They've already rewritten the story. In their version, they're the victim. In their mind, they were justified. And you were too emotional, too demanding, too much. But you know the truth. You lived it. You felt it in your bones when they looked right at you and chose their comfort over your soul. You felt it when you begged for understanding and they gave you distance instead. And yet, you keep trying to prove your pain. You keep wanting them to admit what they did. You keep trying to make them see, but they won't. Because to see you clearly would require something they've never had: honesty, accountability, courage, and you can't teach someone how to face the mirror when they've spent their entire life running from it. So stop explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. Stop fighting for your side of the story in a war they've already walked away from. You don't need to be seen by them to know your worth. This is the moment everything changes. When you stop asking, "Why did they do this to me?" and start asking, "Why am I still letting it define me?" This is the turning point, when pain becomes power, when heartbreak becomes clarity, when you finally realize they didn't destroy you, they just revealed what you needed to rebuild. You were never meant to stay broken, waiting for the same hands that hurt you to heal you. You were meant to rise. So take that heartbreak, take that silence, take every unanswered question, every tear, every sleepless night, and use it. Use it as fuel. Use it as proof that you survived what was meant to destroy you. Use it to build the kind of strength that doesn't beg to be understood. Because from this point on, you stop waiting for them to do right by you. You start doing right by yourself. The story doesn't end when they leave. It begins when you finally decide to stop following them out the door. And when you do, when you finally let go of the version of you that kept waiting, you'll realize something powerful. They were never your closure. They were your catalyst. The end they gave you was the beginning you needed. You don't need closure. You need self-respect. You need to look at yourself, really look, and remember who you were before they made you question it. Before you started shrinking your voice to keep the peace. Before you confused being loyal with being silent. Before you mistook pain for proof of love. You've been fighting for an apology when what you really needed was your reflection back. Because the truth is, you didn't lose them. You lost you trying to keep them. And that's what this chapter is about. The rebirth that begins when you finally decide to stop begging for understanding and start building it within yourself. They don't owe you closure. You owe yourself respect. You owe yourself boundaries. You owe yourself the kind of peace that doesn't require someone else's permission to exist. Stop handing out second chances to people who wouldn't even give you a first explanation. Stop rewriting your story to make excuses for their cruelty. Stop pretending that your softness was the reason they left. It wasn't. They left because they couldn't meet you where honesty lives. They left because your light made them see the shadows they weren't ready to face. And here's the part that will sting before it sets you free. You were never hard to love. They were too afraid to love someone real. Self-respect is what happens when you finally stop chasing ghosts and start choosing your own peace. When you stop explaining why you deserve kindness. When you stop begging to be seen by people who've already decided not to look. Because love without respect is just addiction. A cycle of giving and losing until there's nothing left of you but fragments of what used to be whole. But the moment you say no more, something shifts. Your voice steadies. Your spine straightens. Your heart, though scarred, starts beating with purpose again. You realize forgiveness was never about letting them back in. It was about letting yourself out of the cage of confusion, out of the storm of overthinking, out of the illusion that they ever held your healing in their hands. You start to rebuild, not from bitterness, but from awareness, from the fire that burned you but didn't kill you, from the lessons carved into your silence, from the self-worth you buried under their approval. And slowly, you stop craving their validation. You stop checking if they've noticed your growth. You stop imagining the day they'll regret losing you. Because you don't need their regret. You don't need their recognition. You just need you. The world will try to tell you that healing means forgiving and forgetting. But real healing? It's remembering and choosing yourself anyway. It's looking at the wound and saying, yes, that happened, but it no longer controls me. Self-respect is the rebirth. It's when you rise, not polished or perfect, but grounded, steady, unshakable. It's when you realize that you don't need to prove your worth to anyone because your worth was never up for negotiation. And from that moment forward, everything changes. The begging stops, the waiting ends. The silence no longer feels like punishment. It feels like peace. Because now you understand. You were never waiting for them to say you mattered. You were waiting for yourself to believe it. And you do. Now you do. So this is it. The breaking point that becomes your becoming. The moment when your silence catches fire and the ashes of what they did start to shape something new, something unbreakable. You've cried enough, you've begged enough. You've explained yourself into exhaustion. And still, it was never enough for them. But here's the thing they didn't see. While they were busy underestimating you, you were evolving. Every tear was a lesson. Every sleepless night was a transformation. Every unanswered message, every goodbye that didn't sound like goodbye, was slowly sharpening you into someone who doesn't need saving anymore. You don't rise from peace, you rise from pain. You rise from the kind of heartbreak that makes you forget your own name for a while. And then one day you remember it again. Stronger, louder, unapologetically yours. They will never understand the strength it takes to heal in silence, to build yourself back up without witnesses, without applause, without anyone saying, I'm proud of you. But you'll know, you'll feel it, the quiet power of your own survival, because the real victory isn't in revenge. It's in indifference. It's in the moment you stop checking if they've changed. Stop hoping they see your worth. Stop giving them front row seats to your healing. You stop performing for their guilt. You stop living in reaction to their choices. You stop building your peace on unstable ground. You realize that freedom isn't walking away angry. It's walking away clear. With your dignity intact, your lessons learned, and your heart no longer bargaining for crumbs. They thought they broke you. But all they did was teach you how to rebuild without them. They thought silence would destroy you, but silence became your sanctuary. They thought you'd never recover, but now your absence speaks louder than their presence ever did. You are no longer seeking closure. You are creating it. In every choice you make that honors yourself. In every boundary you refuse to bend. In every moment you choose peace over proving a point. That's the fire. The one that doesn't burn to destroy, but to cleanse, to purify, to turn pain into wisdom and heartbreak into clarity. So when they finally look for you, and they will, let them find silence. Let them find strength. Let them find a version of you so grounded, so whole that they wouldn't even know how to approach you now. Because you're not the same person who waited for their words. You're not the same heart that begged for understanding. You're not even the same soul that broke. You are the aftermath. You are the evolution. You are the fire they didn't see coming. And when you walk away this time, it won't be with anger. It'll be with power, with peace, with the quiet certainty that you no longer need to be seen by those who chose to look away. You are your own closure. your own redemption, your own proof that pain can't destroy what was built from truth. So go. Not to show them what they lost, but to show yourself what you've gained. Go with your head high, your heart steady, and your spirit blazing. Because the story doesn't end with what they did, it ends with who you became because of it. And that's the fire they'll never be able to put out. If you've made it here, to the end of the waiting, the grieving, the endless replaying, then understand this. You've already won. Not because they came back, not because they finally understood, but because you did. Because you faced the silence and survived it. Because you found peace in the ruins they left behind. Because you realized that closure was never a destination. It was a decision. You don't need to wait for their words anymore. You don't need to prove your worth to the people who couldn't see it. You don't need to chase understanding from those who never sought to understand you. Your healing is not a negotiation. Your peace is not a privilege. It's your birthright. So walk forward. Not with bitterness, but with power. With that calm, unshakable confidence that only comes from knowing you saved yourself. Because they may have written the heartbreak, but you wrote the comeback. And now, you're free. Not because they said you could be, but because you finally decided you already were. Now take that freedom and never hand it away again.